and admitting her.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. How are you guys doing?
Good.
How are you?
Hello.
Yeah, good.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, it's been a
We-
busy Sunday for me. I've been
Yeah.
doing taxes.
Oh.
I need to do those. That's on my
Yeah.
to-do list.
Oh, it takes me so long because I have to do my foreign taxes. So I have like a whole other couple of
Oh,
sets.
wow.
Of It took me half the day. And my son has COVID, so I'm like,
Oh
battling
no.
back.
Is he okay?
He's fine. Yeah, he's fine.
Okay.
This is his second time having it. So the first time he had the Delta variant and he was completely asymptomatic. We didn't even know he had it so we're part of a government testing. So they come around, they test every month. And we just got a phone call that he was positive. We were like, oh, didn't even know. But this time he does have a bit of a sniffle. I think he has the Omicron variant. So he has like a bit of a sniffle. So it's like every few seconds. That's it. I mean, other than that, he's fine. I mean, he's only 8, so, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. The younger they are, the easier it is, I suppose, usually.
Brush it off. Yeah.
How's everybody else doing? Does everybody else have COVID? Hopefully not.
No, thank goodness.
Good. I just had it in December. My husband then had it I think it was 3 weeks later. So he didn't get it from me in the house, but he got it somewhere else. And then our littlest has it right now. Our oldest, he had it last August as well. But yeah, it's just like my youngest who has it right now, like half the class is off.
Yeah.
It's just going around the school.
Yeah, it went through our office. Me and one other person are the only people who haven't gotten it yet. But otherwise, like for a while there, it was just 2 of us running everything.
Oh no.
Out. So I was like, oh, this is a lot. But it's fine now.
Good. I mean, I was reading that some people actually don't get COVID. So they're doing research on certain types of people who actually don't get it.
Oh
They're
wow.
trying to give them COVID and they just don't, their body doesn't get it.
Yeah.
Huh.
Well, I kept wondering because I'm like,
Maybe you're one of those.
I've been around all these people. And I'm
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah. Or
And-
maybe
and-
you had it and you were asymptomatic. I don't know.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. At the beginning of the pandemic, my appendix nearly burst, and so I had to
Oh
go
my
and
God.
get. And they tested me a million times. So my
Yeah.
doctor was convinced that was why. And I was negative then, and so after that, I got real paranoid. And so I get tested anytime I feel like anything. I'm like, let's get tested.
Yeah.
And in
Yeah.
Washington, they sent us like a bunch of tests, so I had to just have a stockpile.
Yeah.
Of rapid tests.
Yeah. We get them free here as well. You just go to a website and you click like 2
Mhm.
buttons and they send you a box of 6. So we just get them whenever. And my oldest son, he had to test twice a week. So he was getting them regularly from school.
Yeah.
So that's all gone now. We literally have no regulations, no masks, no distancing, nothing. Everything is gone.
Ah.
Yeah, in the
Same here.
process of lifting everything here as well. I
Yeah,
think
we're
our
just in the
mask mandate-
beginning stages of getting lifted.
Yeah.
Our mask
we
mandate's gone in my county.
Yeah.
now.
Masks.
Yes.
It's lifting here in
Yeah.
Washington too.
Yeah.
But I do get rapid tests every time I go into the jail to visit clients, and I go there once a week. So that's like my once a week, all right, I know I'm gonna get tested.
Yeah. So you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. At
Yeah.
least you know.
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of nice. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're good for now, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right, so I was going to take our picture really fast. Does anybody have the book today?
Oh, I have. Well, which one do you want?
The Night Olivia Fell.
She's
I
got
have
2
the
Which
colors.
version?
Yeah, I was going to say
regular
whichever.
cover. Here it is.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, if you guys are ready. 1, 2, 3. Perfect.
Cool.
Thank you. That was perfect.
Yeah.
Love that you had them positioned and ready to go in the background.
Yeah. Thought I should have it up there since we're talking about it. Now, forgive me if I forget anything. I actually wrote this book about 8 years ago.
Oh wow.
So
Oh,
I've written a few books since then. So
Right.
it takes a long time to get published anyways, but that was my first one. So it just took extra long. So it's been so long. I'm like, oh gosh, do I even remember like little, I obviously remember the bulk of it, but like little details I might forget.
We're not
Test
going
me.
to test you on little details.
Okay.
Brooke just recently finished it this morning, so
Yep.
she will count on her for the details.
She finished like 45 minutes ago, she
Yes.
said. So if anybody is
Oh.
sharp and up to like the minute, it's going to be Brooke. She's our gal.
Okay,
Brooke
thanks.
is
Test
on
you.
Okay. No pressure though, right?
No,
None at all. This is supposed to be fun.
Yeah. So hit me with your questions.
Who wants to start? I have a bunch, but
Go ahead, Brittany.
okay. So I wanted to know what the most challenging part of writing this book was. I know it was your first book that you published.
Yeah.
So were there any particular challenges around that? Challenges in writing the book itself?
There were lots of challenges. So I had so in terms of challenges around the book, I'd had a previous agent and I'd written 2 different books and they hadn't sold. So before I sat down to write Olivia, I'd actually gone, oh, I don't think that I'm going to write anymore. I think, this is just the universe telling me that I shouldn't do it. And then I got pregnant and I had my son, my littlest son, and I had the idea for Olivia. And so I thought, I'm going to write one more book and see how it goes. And I got a new agent at that time. And it was, it wasn't in the most perfect shape. So she wanted to do edits and edits and edits. So we did that. And then she went out on submission and then it did sell. So it was like a great surprise because I was, a little bit down about it. I was like, oh, I can't really keep going if I'm not getting paid for this. And, when you work on a book for a couple of years and then you don't sell it, then that's a lot of, if you're doing that as your job, then that's a lot of heartache because it's years to write a book. So it was just really nice. It was just really just a beautiful experience to go, okay, all of that work has paid off and now it's going to come out in an actual book. So that was great. But as far as challenges then, during the whole writing process, it was difficult to write initially from a teenager's point of view, because I was trying to figure out how does a teenager talk, that kind of tone of voice. So when I first wrote the book, I write very linearly. So I didn't write all of Abby's chapters and then go back and write all of Olivia's chapters. I wrote Abby's chapter, Olivia's chapter, Abby's chapter, and going back and forth like that, I found really challenging. And then at the end, my agent said, I think we need to work on the kind of teenage tone of voice for Olivia. So that trying to make sure that fit and that she was authentic meant that I kind of really had to go back to my high school days and go, okay, how did I talk and how did I see things? Because you see things differently. You have a different point of view, I think, when you're a mother than when you're a teenager. So just
Right.
trying to see that different point of view and having that authentic teenage sort of tone of voice, that I found that quite challenging.
Well, I think you succeeded in that. In fact, that was one of the things I was going to bring up is that
Thank you.
I thought, and I think that must be incredibly difficult to get a voice from another time. And I do think you had an adolescent perspective, and Olivia and Madison. And what's her half sister's?
Kendall.
Kendall. I did feel like, and I'm just imagine it's just like people think that they could write a children's book, and it's incredibly difficult also to get into what's going to appeal and what
the audience
have that voice. And so I think that worked.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I worked on that part of the book a lot. All of Olivia's chapters, I wrote and I rewrote. And I had the story, I knew the story, but just getting that tone of voice, I worked on her chapters quite a lot to make it feel authentic to me and then also to my agent and my editor. Yeah, so thank you.
Did you know how this one was going to end when you started?
No,
Or
I did
did
not.
it surprise you and evolve as you wrote?
Yeah, I was very surprised. I didn't know until I literally, gosh, what point did I know? I'm trying to remember now what point I knew. I think it was the point where well, I can't remember for sure, but it was definitely towards the end where Abby kind of twigged and she was like, oh, okay, I know who it is. That was the point where I knew who it was. And then I had to go back and rewrite a whole bunch because I'm not a plotter. I focus on the creative side and the story and the characters. And then I make sure that everything falls into line. So that means I'm doing a lot of writing along. And then I'll go, oh, this has to happen. So I have to go back and change this. So then I'll do some edits. And then I kind of trundle along. So that means it takes maybe a little bit longer, but I just feel like that's how my process works. I don't have I think a lot of authors use Scrivener for plot, or Plotter for plotting, and they just plot everything, every single plot point, and then they write. And that's just not the process that I have. I go kind of just creatively just write stuff, and then I chip away at it, kind of like an ice sculpture. I just chip away and I then kind of refine it. So I didn't know until the end that who it was going to be, and then it just was like, this makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Could it have been someone else? Was anybody else in the running?
I mean, they were all in the running, and I think that's why.
Well, certainly from a reader's perspective, they were.
Yeah. I mean, for me, they were all in the running as well.
Okay.
And then, so when I knew who it was going to be, I was like, okay, I have to go back in and put in little red flags to show the reader that this is who it could be.
Yeah.
But I didn't do that until, maybe second draft. Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah.
I think that style of writing definitely worked really well for this book because it really kept you on edge, was to wondering which of the, like, oh, well, that it could be this person doing it this way. Oh, maybe it's that person. It really worked out really well to just keep you guessing the whole way through.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I try to end every chapter kind of on a cliffhanger. So, and that's for all of my books. I want every chapter to be a cliffhanger so that you can't wait to go to the next chapter. You're just like, I need to know what happened. I learned that from Dan Brown. He is the king of that.
Yes.
He's very good at it.
So I looked at another interview that you had done about this book, but I wondered if you could talk about your inspiration for writing, because I felt that was really interesting when you were talking about like what inspired you. You had talked about your son being born and everything else.
So my idea behind writing this book?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, he was really small. I can't, like maybe 3, 4, 5 months old, and he was just not a very good sleeper. So the only way that I could get him to nap during the daytime and just have like a sort of happy baby was to sit in the chair and rock him to sleep. He would sleep for 40 minutes and then that was it. And a baby can't live on just 40 minutes sleep for a nap. So I would quite often rock him for 2 hours just so he would sleep and then be okay for the rest of the day. So I was rocking him, and I was reading the news, like scrolling through my phone at the same time. And I read this story about this girl in California who went into the hospital she just needed to get a regular tonsillectomy, like very routine. And when she went in to get that tonsillectomy, something happened where she started bleeding, and she ended up having a bleed on her brain, and she became brain dead. And I just I had a new baby in my arms, and I was like, can you imagine trying to cope with that when you've raised this baby and you've taught them how to ride a bike, and because the girl was 13 years old when she died, or when she became brain dead. She did eventually, they turned off the life support. But so I thought, how would that feel? What would that be like? And that really, really impacted me. And so I thought, I want to write a story about what it would be like in that situation. But also, what if that girl was pregnant? What if you found out that she was pregnant? And then what if you found out that you think somebody was actually responsible for this? What would you do? And I just started, the wheels started going in my mind, and I just, I got really invested in the story and what would I do? And so I started working on a story, when I could. I had a baby, so it wasn't very often. And then about, I'd say it was like a year later, maybe 2 years later, when I really had just bits. I had all bits of the story that I could put together, and I really started writing more of it. But it took me a long time to write that one, because I wasn't doing it full time in any way. I was just doing bits and bobs here and there when something would come to me. I had all these ideas for how the story should go and how I felt about, what Abby would be going through. But yeah, so it took me a while to put together, but yeah, it was very just impactful reading about that girl and thinking, what would I do? How would I feel in that case?
I was concerned for myself at the beginning that it would be too psychologically difficult because of this situation to have. I thought this is going to be difficult for me to read about. To have a daughter who's in that situation. I thought this is going to depress me, but it didn't. I mean, obviously it was an extremely tragic situation, but it didn't drag me. Did anyone else get kind of intimidated or scared of the theme?
I appreciated that it was the alternating chapters because I could go back to her being a vibrant, living person. So it didn't. It's like it had the breaks from the reality that she's lying there brain dead. So interesting question, Phyllis, and I think that that back and forth helped a lot with getting to pull down.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I think that helped without me really even realizing it until you brought that up. Like, that's exactly the levity that it almost needed while I was reading, is to go back to Olivia well and healthy and as a teenager doing what teenagers do, whatever that is, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. It's odd that going back to that and seeing her as this vibrant young woman, it somehow didn't depress me more that that she's lost, that she's lost, and it's like, oh my gosh, we're losing this wonderful young lady. And it seems like it almost have the effect of making you even more disturbed by it, yet it didn't.
Yeah, I was hoping to make it so that readers knew up front that she was obviously not going to make it. She was brain dead. I didn't want that to be any question and then have readers feel let down at the end. So I wanted to make that very clear, but also the hope of the baby, what Abby has to look forward to, her future with her grandchild, essentially.
So I raised this question a little bit before you came, just wondering, so the idea of, so this is actually a law in Washington to keep someone alive if they are pregnant, brain dead but pregnant, right? Is that why you said it in Washington? Is this like, how universal is this?
To be clear, it's for they don't have a directive already. So like, if now, if I have it like written out like, hey, whether or not I'm pregnant, I want to be taken off life support, and I have that directive set up, good to go. But if I'm 17 and I don't have that set up, not good to go.
Yeah. And also, like, laws change. So I said it, I can't remember when I finished writing it, 2017. So it's based on the laws then. So if they're any different now, I don't know.
It's very similar. It's slightly different. In 2019, they kind of tweaked it so that you have more say, but you have to have it up front, ahead of time to say, this is what I want. Otherwise, especially if you're a minor, there's not much that can be done.
Okay. Yeah. The whole point of setting it in Washington was, that's where I'm from. So it's a familiar place, and I knew the laws, and it was just where I wanted my first book to be and where I loved writing that story initially. I didn't look at other states because that's, for my first book, writing that's where I'm from and that's familiar to me. So while the area where they are is completely fictional and is just kind of a conglomeration of a number of places, it's still the atmosphere and the laws and everything about it is still familiar to me. So I wanted to set that first story there.
I was afraid it was going to, again, another fear, all these fear-based things. I'm afraid of the book.
I think I'm scary. I feel like I'm scaring you a lot with my stories.
Was that it was going to get into this kind of moral, religious, political battle of can we keep her alive? We have to keep her alive. And
Right.
you know, and there are even cases where the father gets involved, where, you know, she's got to stay alive because that's my child. But, oh no, it's going to be one of those all fraught with, you know, all kinds of getting religious leaders picketing or whatever. And then of course you didn't do that. So
no, I mean, I'm not trying to be Jodi Picoult, because I think her books are very good in the way that they sort of focus on that moral dilemma. I mean, there is a moral dilemma within the story, but for me, the story is about a mother's love and how far she'll go for her child. And just I just want to entertain people, right? Like, I just want readers to be able to kind of escape and be interested and intrigued. And for me, what I love reading is I love reading stories where there's like a puzzle at the center of it, and I'm trying to untangle that thread and put that puzzle together. And so that's what I like writing as well. There's a thriller / mystery about it, but then also at the core there is a moral issue, but that's not up to me to tell you how to think. It's within the confines of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So the sibling relationship between Derek and Madison,
that
was not a healthy relationship. What was up with that?
I mean, I think they have some pretty messed up parents, don't they?
I was like, where did this come from? Like, man, Madison is really bad, like really awful.
Yeah.
And hateful towards Derek. I felt really bad for him.
Like, I mean, I knew a lot of girls in high school. I knew a lot of girls in high school who were pretty just, I don't know, in their own heads. Do you know what I mean? Just a bit like vile to people, because I think when you're a teenager, you don't really see things from other people's points of view as much. So maybe you can be a little bit more vile than you would be as an adult. But also then where does that come from? Like, does it come directly from the parents, or is it only from just your personality? I you know, every person is different. So I wanted to focus on this kind of just dysfunction within their family that kind of created this confrontation all the time between the siblings, you know? Mm. And also it adds some tension to the story.
It did seem odd to me that they were friends, that Madison and Olivia were friends. But then I look back and I was friends with Becky when we were in high school. And I was the Olivia and she was the Madison.
Oh, I had a few.
That's not true. That's not true at all.
I had a few friends where I think that maybe I was the Olivia, and maybe that friendship was a little bit toxic. Mm-hmm. And I think when you're a teenager, do you really speak up in order to have your own say? But at what price? You know, you're eating lunch by yourself every day. I don't know.
Yeah. No, you're still kind of experimenting on who you are and who your friends are. And it's just like, you know, with what your boyfriends are, they change over time, hopefully. It's a process. And your friends are too. I mean, some of them you stay from maybe elementary school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And some of them you have your likes and you fall in for a while, and then you kind of drift because you become different in what you want to do and how you act.
Yeah, and you learn from those relationships that you didn't want and you did want, and what you want from them or what you don't want from them. So you choose friends based on that going forward. But yeah, I think when you're a teenager, you're kind of figuring that all out.
Mm-hmm.
Were any of the characters based on people you know?
No, I've never based anybody on an actual character. I mean, they're created for the story specifically. There are definitely characteristics and things I see that people do, like when I'm maybe getting a coffee, I might see somebody twiddling their hair, or I don't know, you know, just putting on their lipstick or whatever. And those sorts of characteristics will come through and I might write it. But I've never based it on a real person, because that real person might not fit in the book, and the book needs to have characters that fit that book.
Because you said you had your story first.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess there might be authors that have the character first, somebody they always wanted a character, maybe.
Yeah.
But you had your story.
Yeah, I always have kind of the idea of the plot, you know, kind of a paragraph maybe of like a synopsis of what the story is going to be about. And then those characters grow as I write the story. And I go, okay, for this particular story, here's the goal and here is an obstruction to them getting that goal. So what kind of person would struggle in getting that goal? And then I need to figure out a person, whether they're shy or they're outgoing, or if they're a bit of a bully or whatever that may be, that makes it a problem for them achieving that goal. That creates tension. So those characters are always chosen specifically for whichever book I'm writing. And quite often the first time around I get it wrong. I'm like, oh, this isn't fitting right. This is totally wrong. And then I'll have to go and like rewrite it.
Do you remember
The
having
character
to
or the story?
Pardon?
Do you rewrite the character or the story?
Character.
The plot, the character, okay.
Yeah, the character
Make
to
them-
fit within
make them
that,
fit,
that
okay.
plot. Yeah.
Did you have to rewrite anybody for this in particular that you remember? I know it's been a little while, but was there anybody that you were totally?
I think I, to some extent or another, rewrote everybody a little bit except for Abby, who I knew pretty well from the beginning. She was my main protagonist. But I think everybody else, there were definitely refinements on them. Not rewriting the entire book, but like, you know, maybe I'd get a quarter of the way through or halfway through and go, this person isn't fitting. And I'd really refine that. So I think I refined all of the characters except for Abby very much in this book. There are other books like Do No Harm, for example, where I didn't have to rewrite anything. It just kind of came out fully formed. And even when I turned it into my editor, she didn't have any edits for me to do.
Wow.
So it was just kind of came out like that. But Olivia was my first book. So there was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of going, oh, is this right? I don't know. But I did feel like I knew Abby's character quite early on. I knew the traumas she was going to face, and I knew the things that had happened in her past. So she felt fully formed to me from very early on. But the other characters were a work in progress, and they kind of changed and got just better and stronger as I went, and meaner in Madison's case.
How do you feel now that you've written books beyond this one, that you've got more of a process and a rhythm and a personal way that this was a great starting point for you to work out how you wanted to write?
I mean, you would think that, but no, I think every book gets harder actually. And every book I feel less certain of myself. And I know that sounds really weird, but it feels like I should know how to write a book now. And that's just not the way it works. I mean, I think some books come out easier than other books, and some, you know, like Do No Harm, excuse me, came out so easily, no edits, just perfect. But in terms of sales, Olivia, which I really struggled with, Olivia has sold more, you know, so I think it's just really, I don't know, I think every book is its own different beast. And I've talked to other authors who've written 20, 30, 40 books, and each book is different. And sometimes they're hard and sometimes they're not. And you don't ever know, like, am I doing this right?
Okay.
So I'm hoping one day it will become easier, but even if it doesn't, I'll keep writing. I'm a sucker for punishment, I guess.
I'm going to get away from the book for just a second. What's your writing day like?
My writing day? So I usually get up and write first thing in the morning. So my husband takes our littlest son to school, because I feel like if I can just basically roll out of bed and get to my laptop, then I'm the most fresh. My brain is basically just empty. It's not filled with the stresses and anxieties of like driving in traffic and hurry up, get ready, and, you know, all that frustration. I just get straight to work. And then about maybe lunchtime or so, after about lunchtime, I usually take my dog for a walk, and that gives me a minute to just kind of like chill and get a just take a breath, you know. And then in the afternoon, sometimes I'll write in the afternoons, but sometimes I will do more stuff like interviews or marketing or social media, which I've actually not done a lot of social media lately, but you know, that sort of stuff, the author admin, I call it. And then at about 4 o'clock, I go pick up my son.
Okay.
So the
do you
author
find it-
admin that you referred to, the author admin, I think that's something that I wasn't unaware of, should have been aware of it, but we have now become aware that authors, here you are, you're writing your book, you're getting your book published.
Yeah.
And then you also have, in the way we live now and the way we purchase things and consume things,
Yeah.
you also have this enormous responsibility or pressure to
Yeah.
have a presence constantly.
It is hard. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of jobs within an author job. So it's not just the writing, it's all of the stuff. It's the marketing and the publicity and the interviews and taxes, like there's all this. And I mean, I can't even imagine if you're self-published, you have to do even more. You have to figure out like what cover to use. So you'll have to get a designer and you have to organize with Ingram to get distribution. And there's a million more you have to do. But me as a traditionally published author, even still, it's a lot. And I was finding it to be, because I was running a book club for years and sending out, doing interviews and sending out like a free book of that author's book every month. And I was just finding that really overwhelming to try to do all of that and source the interviews and then interview the author and then organize the giveaway and trying to constantly grow my email list with this book club. I just was finding it really overwhelming. So eventually, and I think it was December, I sent out an email and I just gave that up for the time being because it's just too much with like life and pandemic and kids constantly my kids got COVID and then I got COVID and then my husband got COVID. And then right after that, my kids got chicken pox. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And they're vaccinated against, so it was just like so many things, just one on top of the other that I've been struggling to keep up with social media and the book club. So I finally just, I was like, something has to give at least for a little bit. Yeah. So it's a lot. I think authors have to do a lot. And in general, it's more a labor of love than anything, but we love reading, we love writing, we love interacting with the people that read our books. And I think because of that love, that kind of drives us to keep doing it because we just love it. And when you love doing something, it's worth it,
Can you tell us if you're working on anything at this point? New, forthcoming, book-wise?
I am working on something. Is everybody there?
Yeah.
Yes.
We've
Yeah.
frozen.
Oh,
Might have been a connection issue.
we're
Can you guys
here.
hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you.
Can you hear
Can
us?
you hear us?
Is there a delay?
Okay.
Oh, she's frozen.
Okay. We froze for a minute there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
Okay.
she's frozen, but I hear her.
So I'm always working on something. It's slow going at the moment. Pardon?
We can hear you. We're good.
I think, we're getting a
I'm
little
here.
bit.
Is everybody here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm all right, I'm gonna
The gremlins are out.
all right, are we back?
We see you, we hear you. It looks like you might be back in time.
Are we working again?
Yes. We can hear you.
Now she's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is she?
Ireland, Scotland, somewhere.
Oh,
Over in Europe.
Ireland or England?
Yeah.
Can't remember. I think
I want
Ireland.
to see.
Oh, we lost her.
She might come back though.
Oh.
Hopefully
If
she'll
she
come back.
can.
I want to know what she's working on.
I know.
I
yeah.
was like, that was the part I was so excited about. I'm like, what are you working on?
And that's when
This is
the
live to
gremlins
talk to.
decided
And that's
you
when they
will not
said,
answer.
today you will not know what she is working on next.
No, no.
I was
She's
like,
confirming.
well, and there was that pause, and I was like, well, that's a way to build impact. I'm like, I'm so excited.
Right?
And then
I
I was like, did
know.
she? And then I thought maybe it was my connection. I'm like, did I say something? Like, am I
I thought she was
We're not
offended by
supposed
the question. She was offended by that question. How
like, how
dare
dare
you?
you ask me about it?
Dare you ask an
You see,
author what
I'm just gonna ignore you and pretend you didn't ask that.
Well, that's what I thought. I was like, did I do something today? I was like, usually
I-
we're allowed to talk about this. Like we're
I was
we're gonna
shocked,
read it.
Brittany. I was shocked at that question.
Shocked and appalled.
I was,
Oh,
I
the
was like,
horror.
well, and I'm like, oh, did I just like blow it? I'm like, all this hard work connecting with authors and one question about like, what are you working on now? And the author's like, we're gonna ruin this and they'll never
Yeah.
join you again.
As soon as you did that, then it was like, oh, now, oh, we're buggy.
It's like, nope,
Ooh,
don't mention it. Can't talk about that.
Yeah, can't connect. Can't
It's like
ruin
the old one. We used to do the phone. Oh, you'd hit the phone and go, oh, we're breaking up. We're breaking up.
it.
Start
Yeah.
scratching the
Going-
receiver to make
Going
that
through a
staticky
tunnel
noise.
now.
Yeah.
Tunnel.
Yeah. It's that international Zoom.
Call you later.
I'm like, what?
That's what just happened. That's what just happened to us.
Oh, that is
Is
literally.
this when we need to deposit more money for a long distance call?
We do. Everybody has to put a quarter in at this point so we can keep talking to the author. This is the end of our Zoom. Apparently, my Zoom account died right then and there. I'm like, I keep hoping she'll come back.
I know.
I'm like, please tell us.
Might
what
be
you were
trying
working on."
to, and then whatever's
Yeah.
going on there.
Yeah. I have to jump off about 20 after 1 regardless.
Oh, she's back
But oh, good.
from her phone.
Okay. Hey.
We missed you.
Oh, still connecting.
Connecting to audio.
There's the husband.
There's the tech support. I have to get my tech support sometimes. So
I'm my own tech support.
I have my IT husband.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back.
I just called on my phone rather than my laptop. I don't know what's going on.
you know, it's always a mystery. It's always.
Yeah.
I was trying to do something the other day on my phone, couldn't get it to work, went to my laptop and it worked just fine. So once again, my husband has to remind me that they're different operating system. I go, oh, it's all Apple. It's all Apple. And he goes, the way the operating system is on your phone is not the same operating system on your laptop. I've told you that so many times.
We're glad you're back.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm glad we sorted it out. So what was the
New
the question?
project.
Oh yeah. Yes. So I am working on a new project, but it's very slow going. It's not really something I can talk about yet because it hasn't sold or anything. Yeah, but I am always working on something.
Do you
Is it
only
usually
work on one
thing
project
at a time, or do you have multiple ideas?
I only work on one thing at a time. I don't know how authors can possibly write more. Like I can't even read a book, like 2 different books. I have to just focus on one book. I read one book, then I'm done. I read the next
Yeah.
one.
I'm the same.
I
way.
don't read or write multiple books at the same time. I focus all of my energy and all my brain. I become basically obsessed with this book as I write it. And then I become even more obsessed as I edit it. And then it goes out to my agent and then possibly to an editor. But yeah, just one at a time. I don't know how people could possibly do that. It has to only be people who plot, I would imagine. Authors who are able to plot everything.
Uh-huh.
That's not
Yeah.
me.
People who already know what's going to happen, already know who did it.
Yeah.
Were you shocked when you were like, okay, it's Tyler that did it? Like because you said like as you were going along, it wasn't until
Yeah.
it made sense to you. Were you like, oh wow,
Yeah.
it really was him?
Yeah, it was like I was shocked that I hadn't, like, he was always a suspect, right? So it wasn't like, oh, wow, that's surprising. I never knew about him before. I knew that he was a suspect. I knew everybody was a suspect, but I was surprised at how perfect of a suspect he ended up being. And I was like, I should have known that earlier. But I like to keep an open mind, because I think that me being surprised in some ways means that that twist is surprising as well. And yeah, I wanted to keep an open mind about it. But once I got to that part where Abby was like, oh, I know who it is, then I was like, oh, that's perfect. So it was not, I wasn't surprised so much as just like, haha, that's perfect.
Who was the most challenging character to develop? You said you kind of knew Abby's voice all along.
Yeah. I think Olivia was just kind of difficult to get into her head initially, because again, like, just that whole teenage, just being authentic about a teenager's point of view. And not just that, I think it was just really being authentic about her tone of voice and the way that she thinks. So like her mind and the way that she constructs sentences and the way that she thinks in just a different way from Abby, just rewriting that and making sure that it was authentic. I found that to be the most challenge. She was the most challenging one to write. I did have
oh no, go ahead.
Oh, I did have a reader who sent an email to me, and you know the dad, Gavin, so he's like a Republican. Now I wrote this before there was any Trump or any like massive division. Like, oh man, I got told off by this reader who was so angry that I'd made a bad guy a Republican. So just to clarify, it was not anything political. I just wrote him that way.
He had to be one of the two parties.
I know, I was gonna think somebody.
I was gratified he was a Republican, so that's where I'm coming from. But at the same time, you know, you didn't make it political.
Right.
No, it wasn't political.
That was just mentioned, but it wasn't really, you didn't like make that the main thing. It just happened to be that we two parties and he's got to be one of them, you know.
Yeah.
And then he would have gotten an email from me going, why did you make him a Democrat? You know, so you can't win. You can't win.
Oh man, I made this reader very angry. Oh, she sent me a few, like not just one, like a few emails about it. I was like, okay, sorry.
Oh, wow. Really? That's what she.
Wow.
Yeah.
Honed in on and focused on. It's interesting to hear that from an author's perspective, like what people reach out to you about and fixate on and things like that once the book's out in the world.
I think a lot of readers
you get it
about swearing. So a lot of authors I know get emails and get contacted about swearing, but I've never actually been contacted about that. I've been contacted about how dare I make one of the bad guys be a Republican, which I thought was a little bit funny because, as you said, he had to be Republican or Democrat, and you know, they're all bad guys in my book.
You didn't really make that, again, it wasn't a political kind of statement.
Yeah. And I was like, man, I wrote this book like 8 years ago.
Yeah,
that was just kind of funny to me.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure you get a lot of interesting comments from people. I had to tell one of my friends the other day that just on some things, if it's a book, it was actually concerned a book she wanted to read, a book she wanted to bring up for her book club. And she said she's going to quit reading the comments. I told her, quit reading the comments.
Oh yeah.
People make. Just don't do that. If you want to read the book and want to select the book, you know, you can read some reviews of it, somebody that you think does fair reviews if you want to do that. But don't go to Amazon or Goodreads or whatever and start reading the comments before you. Yeah.
Man, as an author, that's a good way to wreck your day.
Yeah.
I don't read my comments or reviews about my books. I did for Olivia, not every single one, but I did keep an eye on like the overall star rating, and then read like the first kind of round of reviews that were coming in. But then I just thought, like, the book's already out at that stage. How am I going to change any of it, you know? So
Yeah.
I stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably better for your mental health that way, I would
Totally.
imagine.
Yeah. Can't change it now. So
So if Olivia hadn't been murdered, hadn't had her accident, what do you think would have happened with her? You know, so it's like, okay, she tells Derek she's pregnant. Then her mom's she's gonna tell her mom. Like, what's next for 17-year-old pregnant Olivia?
yeah, I think that Abby would have just helped her, you know, the way some moms do. And grandmas do. They would have been like a unit raising this baby. And then I think Olivia still would have gone to college, but maybe just done something different than going away to UW. Maybe she would have done a technical college, or, you know, the thing that good responsible moms do. And I think Olivia was that type of a girl. She was just a good girl, a good responsible girl. And I think that's what she would have done.
Yeah, I wondered
You know,
that too.
Abby was a young mother as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would have been, yeah, she would have supported Olivia. What's that, Brittany?
I said I wondered that too, so that was a great question.
Mm.
Like, what would have happened had we not have had the accident? Basically, I know it's a different book, different direction, but
Yeah.
you still wonder. And then would
Yeah.
Derek have been involved, do you think? Do you foresee that he would have still gone away to school and everything like he had planned to do, or where did you see him fitting in?
Oh, that's hard to know, because it could go so many ways. I think that he still would have gone away to college. I think Olivia would have pressured him to go away. I think she would have said, no, you can't just stay here. You need to go away. And I think he would have done that. But whether they would have stayed together or not, I think that's probably doubtful. I think people change so much, and especially with the pressure of a child and then maybe being in different places. I think they would have had the baby and been parents to the baby, but I don't know if they would have stayed together. I doubt it. But I would like to say that they would have, you know, just because I'm a romantic like that.
Man, what kind of aunt do we think Madison is gonna be?
The fun one.
Oh yeah, the whole thing too. Well, I mean, hopefully they kind of straighten up a bit after everything that happened. I would hope that it would have changed them, but I don't think so. I think she would still be a mean girl.
Yeah.
I was reminded of Serial, the original podcast Serial, where the teenage boy was convicted.
Anon.
Of killing his girlfriend, and then Serial was made of it. And yours story was totally different. So it was not like it, you know, it was ripped from the headline side of story, because it was totally different story, different plot. But one thing Serial did was put the emphasis on this danger period that not just teenage girls, but, you know, adult women go through, but teenage girls are particularly vulnerable in that breakup period for violence and unfortunately homicide from the rejected male. And so it was, and I was thinking about that with Tyler, because he was angry and he had been rejected, although he was trying to turn it around. I'm not rejected, but you know, he was rejected and angry. But then I thought, well, that seems like maybe too obvious a choice, because he was the ex-boyfriend. So I thought it was kind of brave to go ahead and say, no, he is the one who did it.
I think in real life, that's who it would have been. And I like to make my books a little bit authentic to real life. And I think that happens, as you said, like more than we want to even really admit. It happens so often. There's so many girls that do get killed during that period because of, you know, the guy is rejected. And especially when they're younger guys, like, you know, late teenage to kind of early 20s. I think that's what happens a lot of the time.
They don't know how to process it, you know. It's
totally.
But at the same time, I didn't think it was him. So, you know, I knew that logically that's who the police would look at, probably, number one.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about that danger zone for her in the situation she was in, but I didn't have him picked as the one who actually killed her.
So I was kind of leaning towards Gavin for many, many reasons. But I do think that Tyler fit a bit better and was more authentic to how it would have gone in real life. Yeah.
Well, now think how angry that lady would have been who wrote you if it had been Gavin.
Oh, good point. Good thing you didn't do that.
Yeah.
You really dodged a bullet there.
I dodged a bullet there.
Did you ever plan a different ending where Tyler found out she was pregnant? Like, had she been able to get out the "I'm pregnant" if it had ended differently?
No, I never wrote. So some of my books, like Do No Harm, I had a different ending. Not written the whole way, but kind of like a synopsis of what an alternative ending could be. But I didn't with Olivia. Just everything the whole way through just went through so many revisions, but it kind of stayed essentially the same. So it was always going to, once I'd written it the first time, it was always going to stay that way. Do you guys like having, do you guys need to be really surprised and have lots and lots of twists in a book when you read a book?
I like it.
I like it. I like the way it keeps my mind guessing and keeps my mind working and trying to anticipate every surprise and still not getting all of them.
I told the group, I don't try to figure things out as I go. Like, I'm so focused and so exact in work, and like everything's by an appointment. And at 2:00 I have this meeting. At 2:30 I have that meeting. That when I read, it's like my place to unplug and decompress. So like, I don't try to figure out who did it. I don't try to figure out, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I let the story take me wherever it was.
I'm so jealous of you, Brittany. Like, I want to be like that. I want to just like go for the ride. But no, I'm in there like, okay, where are they going with this? Is there a cliche here? Like, what's going on? And so I love it when it's like, oh no, it's not.
Yep.
Because my agent was saying that editors feel like readers have twist fatigue, and that's the first time I've heard that. Twist fatigue.
That's
where
interesting.
readers don't want twists anymore. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. Me, like, I read a lot and I love reading, and I'm like, I kind of like to have twists, and I don't need to, like, not every single twist has to be a massive surprise, but I do want to have some twists as I go. They don't have to be big and bold and shocking, but I do want to be a little surprised and have some things that I'm trying to figure out. But she was saying that editors feel like readers are suffering from twist fatigue and they don't want any more twists. They prefer books that don't have twists. And I was like, really? Like, how does that even work?
No, I personally, I tend to get bored if I am able to figure everything out. I don't want to finish the book because it's like, why bother? I already know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
I think we have stupid twist fatigue, where, where you have a writer who throws in blatantly silly twist just to have more twists. And then, you feel insulted.
Or there's so many twists, you feel like you have whiplash. Like, there's a book where like every time you turn and you get like 10 pages in, there's like a twist and you're in a different direction. I'm like, that might be twist fatigue. Like, there's too much there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're overusing a good thing. But I generally like when I'm like, even if I did maybe put pieces together, or I thought I was like, I'm not trying to actively solve the puzzle when I'm reading, just because that's not why I read. Like, I love to read, but it's my escape from everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, I'm like, I love when I'm like, oh, that's not what I thought. Like with this book, I really, really thought Gavin was like every time we heard about Gavin, the dad, like I got the heebie-jeebies. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, he just doesn't feel like a good guy. Like when they met up in the restaurant, I'm like, girl, what are you thinking? I'm like, Olivia, you should know better. Like, don't go alone. And then, like stepsister is basically watching. I'm like, just things didn't feel right, didn't feel good. And I'm like, like, I thought it was him. Like, if I had to guess, I'm like, it was him to like save his career, save his reputation. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, he would have been the obvious choice. because he was
Yeah.
trying to protect and save himself. But then finding out that he gave the money for her treatments to basically keep her alive was kind of a shocker for me too. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I was like, would you do that? I'm like, but then did he do it out of guilt? Like, is that why
Yeah.
he's giving money? Because he's so guilty that he pushed her, that now she's pregnant and they're keeping her alive. So I'm like, so maybe I do solve it a little bit, but like that was, so when it was Tyler, I was like, oh, did not see that.
Good.
But it wasn't
good.
out of left field. It wasn't like a sharp twist.
No, it wasn't
I don't
crazy.
like-
No, it
Yeah,
wasn't
I like
shocking.
subtle
And
twists
yeah.
where you're like, oh, it was right in front of me, but I just didn't see it. Like I like
Yeah.
that.
That's
Those are the twists
exactly.
I like as well. Not just like so shocking every 10 pages.
Right.
I'm like, what? Wait,
Yeah.
what? Yeah. I like
Yeah.
twists
And
from,
those
like,
to me are
yeah,
clever.
looking back, you're like, oh yeah,
That's-
okay, yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
we knew he did it.
Better
Yeah.
executed than bringing in. I mean, that was well executed. The different, because I was leaning towards Kindle, thinking that
Yeah.
she seemed to have psychological issues and maybe daddy issues and jealousy issues, and I thought there might be something there. And she followed her father, so I was kind of leaning towards Kindle. I think that the twist fatigue comes when you have an author who might bring in a peripheral character at the very last, and it's that character, and you're like, come on.
Yeah. You haven't led up to this at all. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was just surprised, but I was like, twist fatigue, huh? No, I think mostly readers want to be surprised. We like twists, but she did say, like, editors feel that readers are looking for bright and cheerful books. They're not looking for thrillers and like dark books anymore. They're looking for bright and cheerful books. And even that, I was like, I don't know if that's true. I think people are still reading thrillers.
I think that's just personal choice.
I'm like, I pepper in a light one because I feel so bad because I make them read so many dark things, and I'm like, oof, everybody may not have my head and my brain and my heart, you know what I'm saying, where I'm so into, so like I'll pepper in something really lighthearted here and there because I'm like, here you go, here's a break from the thrillers, guys, like, and then we're back like 4 thrillers deep, you know what I'm saying?
I think the dark stuff, because I watch the true crime, I watch a lot of the episodes, the series that are darker. And I always have, and I almost feel like it has the opposite effect because you kind of deal with a lot of those fears. I don't think I'm particularly fear-based. I live in Atlanta. I have no problem going downtown. When we don't have COVID, I'll ride MARTA. I get out and about. I don't think I'm fear-based.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think a lot of that almost is alleviated by reading about it and dealing with it and working through it. I think it has the opposite effect.
I agree. And it gives you some control, like being able to read a thriller and knowing that you can control when you want to put it down and be done with that darkness and then come back to the real world. I don't know. I'm okay with reading thrillers still.
Yeah, I work in trauma and crisis work, and all of us, that's what we enjoy reading. We enjoy reading like the thrillers and the dark stuff. And part of it, I think, is that like it's different when you're reading it. Like it's more fantasy, it's more controlled. We still enjoy it, so it's not like we're like, oh no, I need to read mindless stuff. Which I do too, but I still enjoy the thrillers and the dark stuff. It's not like, oh no, I have to get away from this, because it's not. It's different.
I think editors don't really know. I think editors are maybe tired of thrillers. They just don't really know what readers are wanting right now.
Yes.
I was like, I don't think that's true.
Maybe they've got some vicarious trauma. It's like, oh, sorry, guys.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Do you like to have the pandemic kind of talked about in books?
No.
So we
Neither do I.
read Jodi's book, the most recent one that she talked about with the pandemic. We did discuss that, and it was interesting because it revisited like the start of the pandemic, and I forgot, like, it's amazing how quick the world changed and how much you forget what it was like when it started, like how little we knew, and sanitizing your mail and all of those things, and she kind of brought that back. You know what I'm saying? Like brought back those memories for me where I'm like, I guess out of sight, out of mind, or you forget, like I said, how fast things change and how different they are than it once was.
Yeah. I didn't read. I love Jodi Picoult, but I didn't read that book just for that reason, because I lived it. I don't want to live it again.
I'm reading
So
one now that has it. Gary, I'm trying to say his last name. I don't say it right. Stenhart, I think it is, Our Country Friends. And even though it said in COVID, it's kind of it's more light. It's a bunch of old friends in the country and their history together, and it reads kind of like a screenplay, more than a novel. But we've had a couple others, and I've had a couple others in book clubs, and I don't want to deal with it.
Karen Slaughter's most recent one.
Oh, False Witness.
Yeah, she talked about the pandemic like lightly in it. It definitely wasn't the focus, but it was there. Like she didn't write it out of history, basically.
Yeah. I didn't mind that. That was fine because it was just really lightly.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't.
And when I'm writing as well, I just make it so that it happened in the past, and here's how I am because of it, maybe, but it does not feature in my story really in any way.
Yeah, I don't want it as a plot point.
No, neither do I.
I agree.
Well, we all have different experiences.
Some people, pardon?
Just think we all have different experiences with it. Like I'm in Washington, and so my experience of the pandemic is very different than my mom, who's in Georgia, and our experience is so different than people who lived in New York. And so to read about it, it's kind of like, well, it wasn't like that for me, like it wasn't like that here.
Yeah.
Well,
I just have like a character who washes her hands a lot more than she used to, like that sort of thing,
And then again, you're inviting, do you want to get into all how it was handled locally or in your state or politically? Do you want to get in all the infighting about the science, the non-science? I mean, how much of that do you want to bring in?
Oh yeah. No. I don't want to read about it. I just don't want to, I don't want to write about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I think it would dilute your story. If you have a story that in your case, you wanted to tell this story, and then if you feel like, well, I also have to put that in there and have these characters constantly monitoring their behavior because of COVID.
Yeah.
It would blunt it, wouldn't it?
Yeah. It's just extra words that aren't really contributing to the plot.
Well, and they're like a reminder that we don't need right now, that it's still going on. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, you can look out your door basically and see that it's still a problem. So reading again, if you read for an escape like I do, I'm like, I don't need to be reminded of how my life changed so fast. You know what I'm saying? And so much.
Yeah.
I want my terror to not be so like real.
It needs to be imaginary. It needs to have a little bit of a fantastical element to it, rather than we walk outside and live it.
Yeah.
I like Jodi's book. I think she tackled it well. I personally felt.
I didn't actually read it because I started reading it, and as I was reading it was right over Christmas break when my husband got diagnosed with COVID.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
So I was like,
so you stopped.
Nope.
And that just too close, too scary.
Yeah.
That
too
makes
much
sense.
too soon.
Is he okay?
So, he's fine. But we ended up having his kids were with their mom for that part of the break. My daughter was with my ex-husband. So we were both supposed to get him back Christmas Day. And after he was on his way home with the kids was when we got the test result for his positive diagnosis. So we had to turn around, and they ended up we had him for an hour and a half. And then we had 2 weeks off for Christmas with no children, and I never got sick. The kids never got sick. It was just my husband. So
I had it right before Christmas as well.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that while we were reading.
No,
yeah, I
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of true with lots of with all kinds of things. You start, if somebody's got I don't know, cancer, and they start reading a book about cancer.
The Nicholas Sparks book, his most recent one that he covered melanoma. So I got melanoma for the first time when I was 15. I've been cut open over 100 times. And so reading that book, I've never seen that written about in a book. And obviously, thank goodness I'm not terminal. I'm nowhere close. I have a great pathologist, a great dermatologist. I get checked regularly, but I'd never seen it written about. And so connecting in that book with that character and just seeing my thing finally written about, I'm like, it had a different perspective for me, and it touched home and kind of resonated. She also was an artist, like she did photography, and so she talked about being in the dark room and things like that. I'm like, and I am a graphic designer, you know what I'm saying? I love photography, all of those things. So it was like there was so much in that book. It's nice sometimes to see yourself in a character, you know what I'm saying, or see parts of things that you love or struggle with. Like you're not alone in that way.
Sometimes it just depends. Sometimes it can hit you. It's speaking to you, and you feel heard. Oh wow, somebody else is having the same experience. Other times it's too close, so you just have to, or too jarring. So.
And it depends on how fresh I think the thing is, and
how recent it is. Yeah.
And for me, I mean, I've had it since I was 15. You know, I'm 35, so it's been a long journey and a lot I've gone through. So it just was nice to see.
Yeah. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you. I have to run, but
no worries.
So nice talking with you as always.
Really talking to you. Yeah.
All right. Look forward to the next one.
Definitely.
Right,
Thank
bye.
you. Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye, Brooke.
Yeah, your questions have been fun. I'm like, I don't think we've ever had an author ask us questions, and I'm like, I kind of like it.
Yeah. So last time when we were talking, I was like, I should have asked them more questions. This should have been more interactive.
Yeah, I like this. This is fun.
Are there any more for me?
I don't think so.
I think we talked about most of it.
Okay.
Do you have any more for us? Because that was super fun and different. I was like, you're the first one.
Those were the kind of main ones. Yeah. Thrillers and the pandemic and twists. Those were kind of my, I'll check with readers how they feel, because I didn't believe, not that I didn't believe my agent, I just didn't agree with it. I was like, as a reader, I don't find that true at all.
Yeah.
I
well, and even with the pandemic stuff, like we've all read books so far, like it's not like we won't read them. I guess it's just how it's handled, you know, because I feel like at this point, like it's gonna trickle into everything. But yeah, I guess it's just how it's handled. Like maybe a sniffle of COVID and not like the whole thing.
I think of 9/11. I think of the books that, that was the focus. And I think of other books where it's just kind of part of the life, part of what we live. And
that's a good point, Becky.
Yeah. I just prefer books that are kind of escapist and let me just focus on not real life, because I know, like, I don't know, it's just I don't like it in there right now, but that might change, in a few years or a decade when we're just way past it. Then just to be authentic, I think it'll have to be written about in books in some way,
right?
But as a focus for a plot, I don't know, it's just not really. No,
it was definitely hard to read in Jodi's book, you know what I'm saying, like especially once you
yeah.
realize everything that has happened and is going on, and like she was in this coma and it was that bad. I'm like, that is scary, because that was like my fear, you know what I'm saying, being immunocompromised and everything else. I'm like, so
yeah,
it was frightening in that way. But I think if it's like sprinkled in and not all of it, just because I don't want to think that hard about it. Like I already make choices to be careful and be safe. I'm like, I don't need to be like reminded in my book. You know what I'm saying? Like when I'm trying to escape from not being able to go out, not sitting at a restaurant and not doing all those things that we were,
Yeah.
Like I was telling Jesse, like I wish I had known the last time I was sitting in a restaurant 3 years ago was going to be the last time. Like I would have ordered more, or you know what I'm saying, stayed for that glass of wine, or I'm like not been so quick out the door.
Yeah. But I think what you were saying about perspective, that right now I don't want to, because we're not past it. We don't know the ending. We don't know the ending of this. Is another variant right around the corner? Are we going back into quarantine? Are we going back, and do we have to get more shots? I mean, we don't know. There's so many unknowns. We've kind of been. I remember, what's that?
It's so hard to trust things like opening back up and mask mandates.
I know.
Well,
last July, we lost our mask mandates. I could go to Kroger, and the Kroger employees no longer had to wear masks last July. Things were looking so much better. We're way past it. The numbers are down. And then we got hit with a variant. So in
we
this,
don't trust.
Yeah.
I think though that there's something to be said about the psychology. I was reading an article, I'm trying to remember where it was at, but it was saying like the social psychology that we all kind of have suffered of, like this mass crisis, this mass trauma. It will take us a while to shift our way of thinking about it. Even once it is safe to go out and do things, it's going to be hard and take some time to adjust to that, because like you said, we don't trust it. And there's just going to be this this change in our brains that's going to happen. And I think that will happen on a micro level first, and then it'll start happening, wider community, and then to maybe state, and then nation. And that will happen in different areas at different times. So here in the UK, it's very different, I think, than in the US. In the UK, it has just been kind of considered endemic. People haven't worn masks since last summer. We did start over Christmas when the Omicron variant came, but it's not considered lethal anymore. We have a highly vaccinated society. So I think maybe that's part of it, is we have, just a very low death rate from it. So there's just been a shift, especially again in the last few months. There's been a shift in the way people think about it and see it, and that has had a knock-on effect to the way that we act, and a lack of masks. I mean, I went out on Friday night into central London, and I went on the tube, which is the dirtiest place you can go. A tube or a train in central London is so gross, and nobody was wearing a mask. I did, because I was like, ew. But I think it's just a shift in our psychology and the way that we perceive it, and that will take some time, even once things are safe.
Yeah.
Well, we're in a situation which, unfortunately, it's a medical issue, a scientific issue, and it became politicized, and people.
Yes, so much.
We have a group, and not just political. We've had an active anti-vaxxer faction for a long time who have fought vaccinations for children going to school or whatever. So we've had that, and then it unfortunately got politicized. And so we continue to have a death rate because of the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
And and there was a discouraging report in the AJC, our Atlanta paper last week, that we've just kind of reached where these people are not going to get vaccinated. All the attempts to get people vaccinated, there's this percentage, they're not going to do it. And all the campaigns and all the doctors and all the co-workers and all the employers urging them, that's saturated. It's now to this level that it's just flatlined. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's identity politics at this stage. Unfortunately, my mother is one of those people. And she is, she had a heart attack last year. She has emphysema. She's very vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And she said that she won't get vaccinated because she's a Republican. And I was like, well, that's not really how it works. You don't have to choose that the other. Yeah. But that's how it has become. It's become a part of the identity of many people in America. And it's just not been my experience here in the UK. It's been very different.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's what we have to deal with here, is that we do know that we have a certain percentage that and it's not for medical reasons, it's for ideological reasons that they just won't. And so we've got to deal with that reality.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It does make it kind of go on a bit longer. Yeah. But I mean, I do think it's so tricky, right? Because part of it is like, oh, well, it's freedom of speech and freedom of bodily freedom and it's freedom. But then everybody makes a choice, but who are you affecting? So who is affected by that choice? So I think it is so tricky. There's so many debatable points about it, but because it's become ideological and it's become identity politics, I think that's really driven up that tension a lot, particularly in America. Yeah. Sorry, I don't know how we got onto politics.
You made Gavin a Republican, so
it all circles back to that darn.
I was wondering, was that your mother that wrote that email? That's what I was wondering.
Oh yeah, I'm going to send you several emails now.
Oh, it wasn't my mother. It was a completely new person who I'd never heard of before. Man, she was mad.
I just don't understand how people like why they get so bent out of shape and then why they take it out on y'all.
You're
Yeah.
pretty far in the book too when you like you see, and it's just a one thing, like just like
Right.
Republican whatever. And so it's like, I wonder if she finished the book, or if that person is still out there, like.
Wondering
She
how it
just
goes.
couldn't.
Yeah.
Next time you'll just have to, wimp out and make the person an independent,
Yeah, or Green Party or something.
Yeah. Or make up a party that doesn't exist,
Like a
for
new party that's made up by Christina.
yeah, just some kind of
Which will
Butterfly.
upset somebody else.
I know.
Yes,
I know.
yes.
I'm like,
they'll
you're
say,
kind of.
that's actually a real party in Thailand, and you just sided with the,
Oh yeah.
you make it'll turn out to be some. We've had authors that try that before, just I'm going to make something bland,
Yeah.
just to get around any kind of controversy, and then somebody somewhere will find some detail.
Yeah. World.
Yeah, they're looking for it,
Yeah. It's true. You can't please everybody.
Those people need hobbies. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah.
Their real life and hobbies. I'm like, because
Maybe
you will
their
leave.
hobby needs to not be reading though.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
it needs-
that's a good point. I'm like, if that is their hobby, they need to find a new one.
Go do quilting or something. Something
Yeah.
else.
Knit a blanket, like just something else.
I wonder if
Those
people
fun.
ever get upset on like quilting social groups or
There actually
I'm
is.
sure
There
they
actually
do.
is a whole lot of controversy with the whole quilting thing. I'm not gonna get all into it. But
What sort of stitch to use?
it's all it's racial. Because
racial.
it's a
Racial?
whole thing. You guys can Google it yourselves, but Missouri Star, which is like the company that that does all the quilting supplies, super racist. So it's a whole big issue.
Oh,
You're gonna find an issue anywhere, any hobby that
I
you're
guess
gonna
so. I mean,
I'm like,
Wow.
if you're looking for it, like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
do you have that kind of energy? Like, I'm just tired. Let's just be real. Like, I got enough
me too. I'm
real
always so
problems.
tired.
I'm like, and I
let's
just,
all go have a nap.
I wake up tired. So I'm like, I'm not going to create problems where there don't need to be any. Like, I read a
Yeah.
book to escape. I don't have to agree with everything that's written. I can
Yeah,
scroll past
agreed.
it, read past it, whatever, and not be like, oh my goodness, I'm emailing Christina to tell her, like, here
Yeah.
are my grievances with your book.
but 2 years from now, when Christina has a bestseller about a quilting murder,
Oh.
Quilting murder.
You can thank Shelf Indulgence for that.
quilting circle murder.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. You're giving me ideas.
We're here to help.
Oh, no.
It may not be publishable, but we're here to help.
Yeah, your editor may not be so crazy about the quilting circle murder. but-
Yeah. I think the editor's gonna be like, go back to the twists. Go back.
Yeah.
To the
we were just kidding about the twist fatigue.
Sharper those needles, Jesse. You know.
Oh,
For quilting,
That's
it's
right,
like, you're
circles.
hand sewing or with a machine. It's with knitting, like, that you can do some damage.
Kill somebody. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because of the needles.
Mm. Okay.
Here we go. I could see this shaping up.
Yeah.
I like to read Rich Maley, who some of you may know. Well, Brittany, I don't think he worked with Rich, but he worked at Imagers. Jesse knows him as a family friend, but he used to call it food porn, where you'd read recipes. You have no intention of making these recipes, but you read cookbooks or you read recipes in the Food Network or whatever, just because you like to read recipes, which I do.
Mhm.
But again, be very careful. People get into fights on the comments on recipes and food. Unbelievable about people go after each other about
We're gonna fight about
the-
everything.
the
Oh,
best
wow.
condiments. Condiments are like crazy. People go
Yeah.
nuts over the best condiments. Don't even bring up a barbecue sauce ever.
Well, the hardest
Man.
part for me with the recipe is getting to the actual recipe. I'm like, you get their like back history of their great grandfather's, mother's,
Lots of
uncle's,
research.
son. And
So
I'm like,
jump the recipe.
so
Jump the recipe.
where's the recipe? I'm like, how does
Yes.
this tie into what
I love
ingredients
it
I'm cooking
when they
with?
offer that option on their like their blog, whatever, that just says jump to recipe. Because I'm like, okay,
But
all right.
I was reading
Thank
about
you.
this the other day. Actually, they don't get paid for their post if you just jump straight to the recipe.
Oh,
Oh.
And
no.
that's why. That's why
I
you have to
actually read
scroll.
yesterday
Yeah.
on Twitter. It's so random. But yeah, so they get a certain amount of money for all their posts for creating posts and whatever. And if you click jump to recipe, they don't get money for it. So they've created that.
Oh,
Yeah.
well,
So
I'll
scroll.
quit doing that then. I
yeah,
mean,
just scroll.
Just
then they get more.
physically
Oh.
scroll.
Yeah.
So they
That
get
is-
paid.
you know, I don't understand how all this is monetized. I mean, it's
I
so
don't really.
difficult to understand how. A friend who worked for Southern Living for years, and she sold advertising for Southern Living. And of course, as things change, now everything's digital. And
Yeah.
so
it's
I'm
all about-
like, how do you monetize all that when you're
Yeah, it's all
selling
about click,
digital
right?
advertising? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that in itself is a whole job.
Mhm.
And it takes up a lot of time. And as authors, we have to kind of figure it out and keep track of that sort of stuff. So yeah, that's why I gave up the book club, because I was like, I can't keep track of everything and do this and
Yeah. And
Makes
have a
sense.
family.
Yeah.
And all the self-promotion authors, it seems like, has to do now, like on TikTok, there's all these authors that are like doing like little like acting out blurbs of like what their book is, that I'm just like,
Yeah.
man, you guys really have to like get out there and
Well, I feel like I need
Yeah.
TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I need to keep up
I'm
with
not
that so
on
I can keep up with authors. I'm like,
Yeah. I'm
usually
not on
Christina,
TikTok.
we'll be looking for you pretending you're pretending you're Olivia on
Yeah.
TikTok.
you see these
Yeah.
authors like pretending to be a character just to try and like reach their audience, which I get what they're doing, but I'm like, man, you guys are working so hard. Like somebody
Yeah.
else should be doing this for you.
Totally. Yeah. Publishers aren't so great about the marketing and publicity. They
Yeah.
kind of expect authors to do it. And it's a lot. It's a lot to expect authors to do that social media
Yeah.
presence as well, and then acting things out. And
Yeah, I feel for them that I'm just like, you should not have to be on here on this platform doing this ridiculous little skit. Like it looks
yeah,
fun, but I'm like, man, like that's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah,
it's
it
a lot.
is.
I every time I see an author like I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on Instagram, and so I see a lot of the TikTok posts coming over to Instagram, and there'll be an author like, I don't know, going ooh and like making deep dance, pointing at the copy and then doing this and then going oh, and I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm just not.
I
I
don't
was
blame
like,
you.
if I was a writer, I would not do this, and I would be really angry if I was told I had to like do the
Yeah.
little dances and then be like,
Yeah.
here's the book, and like, oh, or acting out like the whole like, oh no, I'm this
Yeah.
scared person. Like, oh no.
And
No,
I
no,
do
totally.
have different on YouTube's. I have different sites I go to, just for if I'm going to buy something to see people. There's some people that you can go by their recommendations. Again, you have to be very careful because there's good information, bad information, but
Yeah.
they'll talk very honestly. I may watch a video that's only like a minute long about something, a question I have on my iPhone, but you find out later that it took somebody, upwards from 5 to 8 hours to make that 1 minute video, because
Yeah.
I think they just made it and said, oh, this is how you do this and this. No, it takes a long time. to do
No, yeah,
everything.
I've done
Good
instruction
digital.
videos for work, and like I did a 5-minute video, and I think it took me 16 hours, like 8 hours, 2 days,
Sure.
just to get like the
Oh, wow.
5-minute video. But like I would trip over my words, or I would say something, and I'm like, well, is that the best way to direct somebody to do that? You know what I'm saying? Or then I'd hear myself
Yeah.
back, and I'm like, ooh, you sounded hoarse, like you should get some
Yeah.
water. And so like by the
Yeah.
time I finished it and put it all together, I was like, good Lord have mercy. 2 days later, it's a 5-minute video.
Well, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just like, the publisher should be doing that and doing the weird dances and all this stuff. Like, leave the
Yeah.
authors alone.
Yeah, as soon as it started becoming like TikTok became a thing, I was like, I put my foot down. I was like, I liked Instagram. I liked the pictures and occasionally like a short video, but now they've changed their algorithm. So they want they want to compete with TikTok, so they give priority to the videos rather than the pictures.
Yes. Yeah.
That's why I'm not doing as much social media anymore, is because I'm like, I'm just not going to be that author who's like,
No, your work can stand on its own.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Oh
They
my God.
make me feel bad.
yeah, it's just so funny. Yeah,
Well,
I wonder what's
Becky-
going to be next.
Did
What
you
were you-
mute Becky?
Yeah, Becky, you're muted, but I see you like flailing.
I think
What you
Brittany
need?
muted her.
I did not mute her. I didn't touch anything. Don't blame things on me. What's up, Becky? I see you.
There it is. There
Oh,
it
you have
is.
to go.
There it
Okay.
is.
Oh, your battery.
Battery's
Becky.
going.
Bye.
Goodbye.
To you.
Hi, Becky.
Well, I love having you. Your work stands on its own. We will
Thank you.
always read your books. I can assure you that. You've got my book club support and love.
Oh, you guys so much. It's just been such a pleasure talking to you and just like chatting and yeah, not being around my sick child.
Just a few minutes of a break, a little reprieve.
Yeah. Oh, he was all ready for World Book Day. He was all dressed in his he went as here they call, Where's Waldo? In America it's called Where's Waldo. Here it's called Where's Wally. So he was dressed in his Wally costume, wearing the little red hat and the glasses and everything. We were just about to pop out the door when one of the ladies from his school, the mums, texted and said, "Oh, my kid has COVID." And I was like, I should just test him just to see. He sneezed a few times this morning, and that seems to be the clue. And then sure enough, as I'm like in my coat, scarf on, door open, my husband was like, "Hey, babe, I think it's positive." So
Oh, no.
he didn't get to go to World Book Day.
That's
That's a
so
bummer.
sad.
Yeah. But
Well, you
never
know
mind.
what?
So-
Now you can get him to do your TikTok.
oh,
He's got
yeah.
a costume. He's cute
I'll get him
little
to do some
boy.
dancing, pointing.
He can
Oh,
dance and point for
Buddha.
you. That would be precious.
Yeah.
No, but then she's gonna get people being like, "Don't exploit your child."
For your
sell
kid. Yeah, I'm
books,"
always
and-
really careful about that because
Oh.
he doesn't care, but other people will like light into me. It's like,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
how do
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just can't win.
No,
Yeah.
Somebody's always looking for a fight. And I'm like, aren't you tired? Like, that's just what I want to say to people. Like, aren't you tired?
yeah, don't you just want to get along now?
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm pretty tired. I'm like, there's not enough vitamins that give me enough energy anymore. So like, let's just be nice.
yeah,
Yeah.
this author, she made like herself a little like bench out of her books and to like sit on to be
Oh.
like, I'm gonna be doing this. She got hate from people saying, well,
Oh,
your
you-
butt has been on these books, and then you
Oh,
gave
my
them out, and it's just like, what? What?
That's weird.
It was like, oh man,
Yeah.
do not win.
You just get those people who just they want to fight, and I'm like, man, there's just not enough time, right?
No.
no, it's
That
so
will never
stupid.
be us. I'm like, we don't do that.
Yeah.
Really.
We're fully supportive of your quilting circle.
Murder situation.
Yeah, I have to learn how to quilt first.
We will read it and love it and promote the goodness out of it for you.
Yes.
Awesome.
Well, this was great.
Well, it's been so great talking to you, ladies.
Good talking
You
to you.
too.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
Thanks for
Yeah.
coming back.
Yes.
And definitely keep in touch. And as soon as I have any information about any book that is going to come out in the world, I will definitely let you know.
Yeah.
Well, and if
we'll be
you
excited to read
need
it.
a book club to do an arc and do reviews, we do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
So
Call, yeah.
please consider us. We would love to do that to support you.
Yeah, I will absolutely. You'll be the first ones I call.
We'll dance around with your book for you.
Yeah. And point a bit.
We will help you self promote. Yes, we've
Yeah,
got your
That's
back.
what I thought, yeah.
That's right.
We'll do the
Amazing.
dancing and pointing for you.
Good idea. Good idea, Brittany.
Here
Yeah.
to help. I'm like, I do marketing for a living, so here to help.
Oh, awesome.
I actually do it for the
Oh.
federal government. So
Oh, wow. Is it interesting or is it kind of like dry or?
no, I do work with HIV, so HIV.gov and the White House and any of the HIV epidemic. I work for a group that's under the NIH, that's diversity and inclusion. So it's Unite and Causewood, and I did all of their branding, and we're getting ready to launch it, but like ground up from the logo all the way to the brand guide to PowerPoint documents, Word documents, you know what I'm saying, what it all looks like, flushes out, feels like, how we promote on
Yeah.
social. That's what I do for a
Like-
living. with
My
5
real
different.
job, not real job, my other job, my day job that I always did before becoming an author is in digital copywriting. So all of that stuff, but the work,
Nice.
the work
Okay.
would go in those campaigns. Yeah.
Okay. So you would write the words and I would kind of do the graphics
Yeah.
around. We would be a good
Yeah.
team.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you go.
I'm like, I need a you for what I do. So
Yeah. Right.
awesome. Yeah. So I can help you promote when it comes to a new
Me.
book next time. You've got our back
Yeah.
and our love.
You guys are great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank
Thank
you for
you.
joining us. Happy Sunday, guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Hope it's
All
nice
right.
and chill.
Thanks
Yes, you
again.
too.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.